I'm curious about something. I don't know if it's even related or if I should ask, but like, how do you feel about like flagging posts and things like that?
Obviously it's I feel way better and more like amenable to it than freaking
Then
kicking
actually
people
kick them
off, because I feel like with the way the law is with like section 230 and everything like that, I think you're kind of supposed to keep your shit as clean as you can within reason, right? You know what I
Right.
mean? Not
Right.
even just as like a strategic thing for your business, but just to be a good like human being.
And I think about that stuff too. If you are like a pro-capitalist and corporations have rights and whatever like
yeah,
that.
private property and fucking free association.
You would also think that they have the right to take anybody
whatever
down
they want.
for their platform that
Totally.
they don't want on there.
Totally. So that's what's actually hilarious. Like as a side note, libertarians are so libertarian that they would support a thing that would eventually cause them to not exist anymore. I'm dead serious. So you have all these companies that are basically monopolies, and because of how libertarians think, they're like, well, if it's a private company, bro, they can do whatever they want. The free market should dictate kind of what people want, right? Which I totally agree with. But what if what the people want is antithetical to like the American like constitute, like the noble things that we are supposed to all hold dear to of like, well, we can have pretty much unlimited freedom as long as everybody doesn't do this, this, and this.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's where the whole republic thing comes from or whatever, right? Libertarians would be for a policy that would say something like, well, we should kick off all libertarians off of our fucking platform and make and chain them all up and stuff. And then we would just be like, well, I mean, if that's what they want to do, I mean, just don't include me with that. And it's like, well, they are including you, you dipshit. Like, so again, like, it's funny because the deeper I go into libertarianism, the more I'm realizing that libertarianism is without a fundamental moral mooring or anchoring. You might as well be a moral relativist.
Okay.
Which is basically what fucking Satanists are. Of like, and I'm being overly general, but like, of this concept of like, there is no good or evil. Right. It's all just in your, it's all just perception and stuff. And, to some level, I kind of actually am sympathetic to that, or whatever. But there's also certain levels that I'm like, hell, I'm not sympathetic to that. Levels where I'm like, well, every sentient human being in the fucking universe knows the difference between right and wrong at the most basic core level or whatever, right? So libertarians minus some sort of like
mentally
moral...
healthy, but I know what you meant.
Yeah, thank you. You get me, Markus. You're the only one who gets me. So if I'm going to be a libertarian, or if like the libertarian movement is going to like take off or anything, it needs to actually have a very small but concrete set of fucking rules, like a republic, like a piece of paper. Yes, basically of like, okay, look, we're going to establish like 5 rules. That's all. Like, you know what I mean? Like some sort of small number of really basic, really general rules. And then but after that, we can basically craft on total freedom or whatever. Because I came to the realization, just this one instance, because like for instance, borders, they don't believe in borders or whatever, but libertarians don't believe in really borders or whatever. When in my reality, I'm like, well, even just to function in the world, you got to have some sort of like boundary or barrier. But more than that, if you don't have a kind of set standard of rules, it can be kind of subjectively interpreted in any way. So for instance, libertarians are big on consent, right? And free will and that kind of a thing.
Right.
But they, at least as far as I'm concerned, have not had some sort of like standardized application of test to be like, well, how old do you have to be able to give consent for things? Because if you're still like, nobody can tell me what to do, but if I'm raising my kids, you can also not tell my kids what to do because I'm like the master of my fucking children or whatever, right? But once they turn like, let's just say 18, because that's our societal like,
where's that boundary?
Do I still have the ability to make that person's mind up for themselves? I would argue no. Like, but I would also argue that it needs to be
what if they're living in your house?
Yeah, well, see, all these rules and shit, right? Well, see, because I don't like, I'm obviously very anti. I don't want to say the word because fucking I don't want to get pinged or whatever, but
I've seen some 18-year-olds that are pretty stupid.
Kid diddling. No. Well, like, just like this.
Wait a minute.
No, this is what I'm saying. So, but I also have, I'm not going to like look down on somebody who's like 18 and dating like a 60. I mean, I'm mad a little bit, but like, but like, I'm one of those things that's like, well, bro, if you're an adult, you can do whatever you want, dude. I'm not going to judge you for that. But my point is, where does that start?
Right.
When do they get to make up their own minds to be like, okay, like I need to tap out of their responsibility and let them tap in, right? And so just questions like that or whatever, I feel like would need to be addressed before libertarianism ever really gets like anywhere, really. Because then it's just morally relative. It's like, well, do what you feel. Do what you feel like. Yeah, exactly. Which we're going to be talking about in our magic episode, dude. Do what thou wilt, right? So anyway, little side note of
one of these days, I'm going to pick your brain on like what you think the perfect like I guess government and society would be.
It's all directed to population numbers. I can give you that fucking right now, dude. Fucking well, anarcho capitalism or anarcho communism is fucking fantastic with like 5 to 100 people.
Right, but then once it gets a little bit bigger,
once
then
it
you
scales
start to have
up, you have to
problems.
start tuning back people's rights.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, dude. And this is what else we're gonna talk about in the magic fucking episode is that the concept of if morality increases, freedom increases.
Okay.
Can you understand why? Or at
No,
least
I
the
need to think
hypothesis.
about that.
So if everybody is doing what they should be doing and not raping, killing,
Oh,
stealing,
yeah,
and murdering, or
uh-huh.
whatever, then you don't really need
You
laws
don't really need
to
be
fucking
stopping
develop it.
people.
Yeah. Again, it's like that K-Pax thing of like, well, every sentient human being knows what's right and
Mhm.
wrong. It's like when freaking Jeff Bridges or whoever's like asking that alien, that kid's played by Kevin Smith or whatever, like, well, like, he doesn't have any laws. He's like, no, there don't have any fucking laws out where I live or whatever. He's like, how the fuck do you guys know the difference between right and wrong? And he like laughs at him. He's like, dog, every sentient human being in the universe knows the difference between right and wrong.
Yeah.
So, but that's my point, dude. Is if you have an extreme amount of social cohesion, you don't need a lot of external influences to keep
What a world
fucking
that
people
would
in
be.
line. Imagine, dude. So what's funny is that this dude Tim Pool that I'm always listening to and talking to, right? He always references that there's this video online somewhere, like probably on YouTube or whatever, where this dude who's playing like Civilization or SimCity or something like that turns off all the laws, has just is anarchic, free market capitalism, no rules. Fucking, just and he was like, "Oh man, this is gonna be crazy. This is gonna be like riots and chaos in the streets and stuff." And because of the way that the system and engine was set up, it was actually like there was like no
Utopia.
crime and like high rise, like everything, and everybody's working with each other. And every once in a while, there's like a little hiccup or whatever. But basically, everybody comes together and be like, "Well, we gotta keep the game going. Everybody's making money on the game. Like we
Right.
don't want these loonies fucking it up. So let's fix everything." And it was hilarious to me because I was like, I believe that that's eventually once human beings reach a fucking level of evolution. I don't even we want to use like that type of word because it's so simple and basic and it's all loaded with all these other terms. But once we like collectively mature to a level where we're like, we don't need all these rules. I feel like that we will have like a one world government. We will have one like currency, one fucking language, one general culture, though I'm sure there'll be a fucking whole bunch of like little micro cultures or whatever, as is the United States. We're kind of one.
Right.
Well, now we're like two, but it's supposed to be one giant kind of like culture that's
very
fractured
American
into.
of you to say, Drew.
Yeah, I know, right? Totally. But like, I feel like on a long enough timeline, without being forced, human beings will eventually all come to the same conclusion because we all have the same needs and same basic things that we want. You know what I mean? Like countries
on a basic level, yeah.
On a basic level, countries want like different things or whatever. But if you break it down to even further of what those things represent, we literally all want the same thing. We want future. We want fucking children to be raised. We want good health, and we want all of our societies to fucking reach the stars and spread out into the space or whatever. Presumably, I don't mean to presume to speak for the entirety of the human race.
I speak for the entirety of the human race.
Totally right. Totally.
Face-to-face shorts. Do you enjoy the show and want to help it grow? Don't hesitate. Like, share, and donate.
Anyway, I don't mean to get fucking super far off.
No,
Maybe
it's
that
good.
could be its own little.
I was just thinking.
Yeah. Its own little like fucking Drew rants about fucking libertarianism.
Drew versus human beings.
Yeah, right. Drew versus the world. I'll take you all on.